there's more games coming up in the genre that are using this, but yeah, it's a fairly unique trait to the larger genre. So yeah, I do appreciate that feedback about how any upcoming changes could affect the flow and the dynamic of the game. And those are all good points, about we don't want an overly complex or convoluted or confusing system. And that being said, that we are continuing to evolve the game of Squad, like the root core gameplay. But we're hoping to take a little bit more measured approach. Um, but we are continuing to focus on those core pillars of Squad that we've kind of established previously with some of those dev chats or dev blogs. There's certain elements of the game that still don't necessarily align with those things. So basically, we hear your concerns there. I wouldn't jump to too many conclusions based off of what has been said or perhaps rumored. I didn't know about that rally points being tied to Habs. I'm not sure where that one came from, but that wasn't something on our current design plate. The in the 2.0, hopefully the UAT comes out soon. There is no Hab proxying by numbers. That feature has not been implemented yet. There is, however, an activation timer for the Hab, and that is currently set at 10 seconds. So when you place a Hab down, 10 seconds later, it will be spawnable. This is a kind of a conscious choice for the flow of spawn points to not be a decisive deciding factor, and it's more about coordinating and moving and planning rather than very decisive go no go on the spawn points. We could discuss this stuff further and have more conversation, but I think you'll see that changes are a little more incremental rather than very abrasive. I understand that change is a big deal for the competitive meta, but yeah, I do take we do like to hear the feedback, and we do encourage you when the UAT does come out to give it a try, see how it works, see how the gameplay is adapted, and we'd love to hear your honest opinion on it. And yeah, thanks guys for that feedback.
Because Raman just had his topic spoken, I'll go back to him after Towards. Towards, you had a topic?
Yeah, topic mainly being around AT vehicle balance. I touched on it in the post I made. At the moment, it feels kind of just all over the place. Vehicles feel very unloved. Mobility kills are ridiculously easy right now. It's way too easy to track vehicles. One wheel on the APC goes like on a striker, and it can't move at all. General vehicles just feel weak, so they just have to feel like they have to find a spot where only their turret shows and sit there the entire game, and it doesn't feel like great gameplay, and it doesn't feel like that's what the game had envisioned for certain vehicles. And coax being on right click, I know that might have been something that you guys touched on, but just doesn't seem to be something that's important when it really feels like it needs to be, especially for tanks. If they're in competitive play, they're just, a lot of the time I'd sort of balance it in my head, what's the point in actually taking this tank out? It doesn't feel useful, which then also ties into people not just dying straight away when you hit them with like a heat shell. Like, you feel as though that person shouldn't be able to just be able to be revived. They should be dead. They shouldn't come back. But that's kind of like the core of what I was going to bring up.
Okay. Anybody have anything to add? And If not, I'll just call on Fuzz again, and he can speak if he can speak to any of the game design choices that we made for Vix. Fuzz, you there?
Yeah. No, thanks for bringing up. The vehicle balance is still, yeah, I would say there's more fine tuning needed there. You brought up an example of the striker with the wheel. Um, that system does need to be tweaked on several vehicles. It should be more reasonable to expect 2 or 3 vehicle or wheels lost to slow the vehicle down significantly. It's a little bit of a weakness of the system there, but those things will be addressed in due time for each of these vehicles. But speaking to the greater balance between AT versus vehicles and what role does vehicles play and how can they be balanced so that they are supporting infantry, not too overbearing or overpowering, but also don't feel helpless and useless. Yeah, that balance is still carefully being uh, worked on. We are bringing some stronger analytics into the game to we have community feedback, our own uh, experiences, or you got videos, etc., and as well as data from analytics and your overall design purpose. You take all these things together, combined to form your. I would say when it comes to a game as complex as Squad, it always comes down to a hypothesis. You test your hypothesis, and then you continue to refine that. Getting to a balanced state in a game as complex with Squad that continues to add more content is never easy. I wouldn't say we're in. Uh, I would say we're in a mediocre spot at the moment. We're not in a great spot, and I'm hoping we can begin to address that in the new year. With the AT especially, I think there is quite a gap in terms of the competitive play in the average public players, where once you know these weak spots, etc., on the vehicles, it can be quite. Um, it's much less of a challenge. Whereas for new players, it does take them time to learn how to fire the ATs, when to fire them, etc. I won't go on and on about it, but we are intending to bring. Well, there's a slight confusion there. We're calling it post revive recovery state, or otherwise known as dead, but not to be confused with dead when you're shot by a large caliber round. This is more to do with that you're in a vulnerable state, and we're calling it the recovery state after you've been revived. So, for example, if you're AT, you've popped your head up, you get shot, and then you get revived. If you pop your head up again and get a shot again after there's a cooldown window, you will go straight to dead. So this will, in a small way, uh, benefit to the vehicle players, because AT will need to be a little more cautious when poking their head out of cover. That's just a small example of kind of a small thing in regards to that AT versus vehicle mix. There's a lot more things like that in the pipe, and we just have to move forward with it. Yep. Anyways, I won't go into too much detail there, but if you want to speak more on that, and if you have suggestions for potential changes to be made there, by all means, post them up in the channel, and I'll address them in a separate channel. Thanks for the feedback.
Ramen, you had another topic you wanted to present or talk about?
Yeah, this kind of goes. This is I'll condense like two questions into one here. I suppose this is probably more directed at Fuzz. But the big one is I know it says there's been a couple of patches where OWI adds AAS layers, and then a patch later they disappear, and I don't really like. I think a lot of us like obviously we all prefer AAS, we know that, but I don't really understand why layers are then worked on and then turn into different layers. Like, for example, Falls Road V5 was in for one patch, and then it got changed and they just added the vehicles. They used the same vehicle layout, but then changed it to random AAS. I don't really know why that was done from a like it is. I don't really understand what was the point of removing the layer and replacing it with Raz when it was a good layer to the game. And another point as well, just bringing up Raz, I think everyone kind of agrees that random AES could be good if there wasn't a fog of war system. So I suppose the question is, why do AAS layers get removed after being put in? And are there going to be future changes to the random AAS system without the fog of war?
So I can speak a little bit to this. So for the AAS, I believe, and Fuzz, correct me if I'm wrong, before having all these different layers in and maps actually took up a lot of space for the game. So the goal was to not have the game like be overly large for people to download. But going forward with layer overhaul, that's no longer the case. So we can add a ton of layers in. So if there is a particular AS layer like Fool's Road V5 that you would like to see in the game, we can recreate it and add it back into the game. And if you have a new map idea, for example, you can send it to myself or Crispy, and we can review it. And if there's time from the development team, we actually can add it to the game now. And for RAS, in the future, we're planning to do some sort of a like once labor overhaul is done, we're planning to do some sort of a game mode overhaul, which is going to allow us to be more flexible in the game modes. It's a lot like layer overhaul, which lets you be flexible in the map layers. So this means we can do something like adding a server-side option for having the fog of war off on RAS. So it would be just like an AAS layer. It would just be different each time you played it. So there is an option coming to do that, possibly.
Cool. Sounds good.
Yeah, that's all correct. The one thing is, it was a combination of, well, the layers had the sizing and layers. There's artifacts related to the lighting layers that was causing the layers to balloon in size, and this has been largely reduced or eliminated with layer overhaul. And it wasn't just the size, though; it was also the maintenance of said layers. The maintenance with layer overhaul is far easier now because it's their data assets, largely done with data assets rather than everything on the layer, like the vehicles and the factions and everything is done through data assets now. And eventually with game mode overhaul, which will be what we do after layer overhaul, but even more of that will move into data assets. It's just basically you don't have to load an entire map to change one little thing. You just load up a data asset, which takes 2 seconds. So it's a little more streamlined in that regard. Thanks for
George, you have another topic?
Yeah. Just two questions. Is helicopters seem a bit like a gimmick right now? It seems very in competitive play anyway, and I'm starting to see it in pubs. It's very dash to a point at the start on the opener, and then fly really high up in the sky and crash into each other. Depending on the server, if they obviously some servers allow it, some don't. But that's very much what like competitive play is. I don't know if there's any rework coming into that. And mortars seem very they seem very strong right now, and I'm now even starting to see them in pubs a lot more, especially after the OWI tournament, where I think everybody's just starting to see that mortars are just ridiculously easy to put up, ridiculously easy to spam, due to the ammo reduction that came in a change, and just that there's no overheat system, so that people can just keep reloading three rounds, reloading 3 rounds, and keep firing them. Is there any sort of changes coming to mortars and helicopters?
Fuzz, if you can take that one.
Yes, I could take another one. Okay. Helicopters, there's some handling changes coming up. But I guess that's not what your question was. It's not simply about the handling, but more about like their purpose in the battlefield and how they're used. Yeah, we're aware. We're not entirely happy with them. I wouldn't say they are a gimmick because they are, how to refresh the ammo on these said mortar fobs. I think large part is due to the helicopters doing that. So they do carry a purpose, but certainly wouldn't say they're necessarily they're not in the perfect state that we would have envisioned them to be. Like I said, we're doing some handling changes, and potentially with the faction setups, we might be switching up um, their function or their necessity. For example, factions that heavily favor helicopters might have a lot reduced ground vehicles in certain layers, and we'll be experimenting with that. If it doesn't work out great, that's okay, because with the layer overhaul, we'll have more flexibility with the vehicle compositions, and giving players more choice there. The there is an issue with the collision. People going after helicopters colliding. I know a lot of servers don't allow that. We don't have a great solution for that yet, because it is kind of isn't an easy problem to fix, but we will continue looking for ways to fix that. In terms of rushing to the first points, etc. In especially in game modes more focused on competitive like AAS, that is a uh, definite source of um, it's not fun to see that happen every single time, right? You want it to be a little more organic gameplay. So we are aware of that, and there might be some changes coming to the ticket economy, et cetera, that might shift that focus. But that'll be kind of more of a gradual change. In terms of mortars, yeah, we might actually bump the ammo cost of that back up. It might have been an over correction there. I know for if you've been in squad for a long time, it is kind of interesting to hear the comments about mortars being too powerful, too spammy, etc. Because for the longest time, you did hear mortars are so weak, they don't do anything. You could land right next to each other. That was largely due to some bugs that caused, if you actually got off a mortar previously, uh, before the rounds landed, those rounds actually did not do any damage. So it appeared that the mortars were useless and not doing damage, where in fact they did do damage as long as you stayed on the tube. And some other weird issues with the mortars where they wouldn't always do their full damage because of the way the projectiles were coded. Those things have been corrected. They got their proper range, damage radius. So yeah, they are now, I would say, quite effective. So we probably wouldn't reduce that range, but we might increase their cost. I mean, I would love to see mortars like properly animated and a better system for them. We don't really have that in the timeline right now, but can't say that wouldn't ever come. If we could properly animate them, that'd be beautiful. Properly with, like as you suggest, perhaps some kind of cooldown on the tube, because you can't, authentically you can't just keep spamming a mortar forever. It's quite dangerous to do so. So it's worth having looking at those things and making sure that that asset is not. As you said, it's coming more and more into the meta, so we want to make sure we're aware of that. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Roman, you had another question, topic, something? Your mic is not working.
I somehow muted my mic. Well done.
Okay.
Yeah, classic. Just like this is a question that a couple of people brought up in FA, just about the combat engineer kit. So I'm just going to kind of drift over the point, but this is probably more directed at Fuzz. Like the combat engineer on the map, like when you play as combat engineer, like there used to be kind of a meta where people would like, without the combat engineer's like core role because of the radio bleed out system now. It kind of seems like now that people just place fobs wherever they want, and there's not really a thought of, especially in pubs, this is really noticeable. there's not really a thought of where to place the radio, or should I put the radio in this, here, or wherever, because now all it requires is people notice the bar going down. The radio's on bleed out because, it's been dug down by one stage, and then it gets C4'd and it gets on bleed out. But then from there, the combat engineer 9 times out of 10 always gets killed, and then a fob gets saved. So it's kind of now just encourage people just to play reckless fobs, and it doesn't really punish it in any way. It just makes the game a lot more casual in a way, because people aren't really having to use their brains to think, oh, where am I going to put this radio? Where am I going to put the hab or whatever? Place them and don't really have to worry, because there'll be a whole squad around and they can just show, oh, I'll run back to the radio, it's getting dug down, or it's on bleed out. And they have that 60 seconds to go back, build the hab up and save it. And when the combat engineer was introduced, it kind of made its own play style that a lot of people really enjoyed. The whole aspect of disrupting supply lines, hindering enemy spawns, like that was quite an exciting thing. But ever since the update and the bleed out mechanic, the combat engineer almost feels useless now. It used to add like a big variety to the game, but just by adding the fob bleed out system, it kind of really affects the game, where it kind of just pushes it back to being a lot more casual, and it just turns it into a bit more of a meat grind shooter with less of a brain behind it. So for us personally, I think we'd all kind of like to see a change, or definitely revert to the fob bleed out mechanic, because it just serves to make the game a lot more casual. And it almost feels like a Battlefield shooter in a way, which is not what any of us want, because it's another aspect that gets made casual, and it's not noticed by a lot of people. It's only, again, noticed by us here who play the game a lot. But yeah, I suppose that's a question for Fuzz. So will there ever be changes to combat engineer again, and is the fob bleed out system being looked at to be changed?
George, you had something to add, or?
Yeah, on the combat engineer front, I feel like conventional forces like US, GB, Russia just shouldn't have mines anymore. As a vehicle player, mines are just not fun. Like, it'd be fine if I could see them all the time, but I mean, pub players, yeah, they're placing them down and then not digging them, so they're easy to see. But players like us, they're putting them in certain spots where you just can't even see the blast cap. So they essentially just become invisible. And then you can place 10 per combat engineer. It's just not really personally a fun element of the game at all. And then especially how much damage they do. If they were just mobility kills, I would understand, but I mean, you can just place 2 mines next to each other under a rock and you can instantly kill a striker. It just seems a bit ridiculous. I think if you were to remove the mines from the conventional forces, it would be an indirect buff to both militia and insurgent, which we know both need love. I don't know if that's been something that's been discussed, but yeah, I don't think that combat engineer really the mines have a place in the game for the conventional forces, unless the mines are fixed where they're just not placed in these invisible spots. It's just not great.
It's kind of interesting hearing that because you simultaneously having one person saying the combat engineer is basically useless kit now, and another saying the combat engineer is too powerful because their mines cripple the vehicles. So it is an interesting. It's just interesting hearing the feedback. But yeah, I can speak a little bit on the. We do. I think the overall the FOB bleed out has been a largely a good thing to combat some of the uh, to strengthen the fob and bring it up to something that doesn't feel as hopelessly always going to be destroyed. There is going to be things that we continue to do that will both simultaneously strengthen the fob, but also make it not as instantly uh, power up kind of say. So it's a fobs would be more of a long-term planning strategy rather than a instant quick drop uh, mentality. Um, so yeah, regards to the engineer, we do have additional tools that we plan to add in the future. Uh, I won't go into too much details because I don't want to keep. I hope some of these other questions can be directed like more towards the actual tournament, but I'll just say shortly. Yeah, and the mines, we do have plans to potentially do things to help. Some of the things with the mines is putting them near main bases. We might do things such as allowing if a mine gets placed too close to a main base, you simply get a HUD icon like you would see an enemy's mine because it's within a certain distance of the main base. So largely making it a useless endeavor to mine directly outside the enemy's main base. And in addition to that, I agree with the sentiment that a mine should always be a mobility kill and not necessarily outright destroy your vehicle. The intention with mines was to be something you would use in conjunction with an ambush and not the end all be all part of the ambush itself. So you would mobility kill and then follow up quickly by your ambush. And if you failed to follow up with an ambush in a timely manner, the mine would have just been more of a delaying action than anything else. So, yeah, like you said, in public play, they might not always do that, put 2, 3, 4 mines all lined up in the same spot. Um, and it's a fair point about irregulars not having enough unique toys. We are adding more toys to more tools and vehicles and etc. to the insurgents and militia. So it may come one day where we do remove the mines from a combat engineer and maybe perhaps put something like a deployable combat ladder. Um, but for now, thank you for that feedback. Nothing in that area is immediately changing for 2.0. Hopefully, there's not too many more design questions. I'm trying to not take over this meeting. Thanks, guys.
I will go to Connor and then Ramen to finish off the topic.
You say mines are used for ambushing, and if not followed up, that they're not used properly. But the problem with that is if you get mined in any vehicle, you then have to get out and repair it, which takes upwards of over a minute. So you don't need to follow up with AT exactly. Chances are the mine gets a track kill on Bradley or whatever, or it takes off all the tires on a BTR or a striker, then that vehicle has to sit there for maybe, I think something like 90 seconds. Meanwhile, you can have some guy just in a bush waiting to kill the guys jump out, which is often what happens. There's also a bit of a misunderstanding or maybe a misconception of what people are saying about engineer. Rahman, I think, said that engineer is bad against fobs, but then Cord said that mines are too good. While that may seem like it's a bit of like you're saying combat engineer is too strong and then saying it's too weak, I think it's more of a problem with its tool set not being balanced. Because you have the C4, which kind of is more or less redundant now with fob bleed out. But then you have mines which disappear under roads, can't be seen. You can't dig them up either. Because the trick you used to be able to do to find them was you would shovel on the road, and if you got a shovel animation, there was a mine there. But you can no longer do that with this issue. So I think people are just trying to say, pay more attention to the small balancing issues that each kit has.
Yeah, thanks, Connor, for clarifying that. I think so I wouldn't call C4 useless. There is many times where you can still operate independently as a combat engineer in back. We do often hear, there's too many fobs, it's too easy to put them up. You can still operate on these back lines, destroying these fobs, and you can be quite effective. You might not need C4, or if you have it, you can use it and quickly disable a fob and continue on your way. I think what the issue with the mines are is, there's not enough. There's not a full gameplay loop right now with the mines. Like you said, there's not a way to detect them easily or disable them easily. So it plays more to the irregular forces than there's not a direct counter to the mines. But I would say, just to slightly, I don't want to keep going into this details, but like, yes, if you're independently operating a vehicle, you don't even have a gunner in there, you get out, you get hit by a mine, you get out, repair, you get shot. Well, that is a consequence of action. If you have an APC and you've got people in the back, you've got a gunner, and you hit a mine, some of the infantry start getting out, a guy starts shooting at them, the gunner can now engage that target who's shooting at them. The infantry can go clear the target, and the driver can, repair the vehicle. So the more you operate independently, the weaker you are, and that's something we'd like to, make sure that it's still a thing. Like if you are operating as a group, especially infantry and vehicles working together, you are more, you're stronger doing that. That being said, of course, double triple mines is not a great thing against if you have infantry in the back. Of course, that really sucks to die by that instantly. So I agree, that is something that needs to be addressed. And yeah, certainly we could talk about, reducing the overall amount of the mines for the engineers and everything like that. So thanks for clearing that up, Connor. And yeah, I'm aware that there is some inconsistencies there with the combat engineer kit.
Connor.
Just a quick rebuttal. I think part of the issue with the whole mines under roads, killing vehicles, mobility goals, all that kind of stuff, is because the alternative is sitting at a repair station that will just get mortared and realistically offers you little to no benefit for staying at it over going to main. So I think if you offered an alternative repair station outside of main that gave people rewards for logistics and sort of made them stick to it, then you would cut down the issues with getting mine, going back to main, coming out of main, yada yada. Because that is the main issue with mines. It's just a 3-man squad that goes behind you, mines the roads. And then if you're forced to go back to main because your repair's been mortared, you're kind of forced into dying. And there's no way you can avoid that. Not even in comp, where you are entirely aware of the possibility of that happening.
Raman, you had a follow-up, and then I'll go to Rollis for the new topic.
Yeah, I'm just kind of following up on what Fuzz kind of said earlier, that he kind of mentioned that he didn't want to turn this into a kind of he wanted to kind of keep this focused on the tourney. But I'm going to be completely honest with Crispy and Fuzz, and this probably relates to a lot of OWI other than Jenny and Baron. The reason that most of us are here today is because for ages none of us have felt like any of us have basically had our points heard. That's not down to a fault of anyone else. I know Gatsby left and things like that. But everyone's kind of had these opinions for months and months, and they've been vented in other channels, in this Discord, in other Discords, whatever in game. But I kind of feel like a big problem is that a lot of us kind of hold these frustrations, but there's no way of us actually reaching out to talk to OWI about it. We represent a large part of the community. A lot of us seed the servers. We're the guys that have the active communities, which then give the pubs the pubs that buy the game, and the new players, you know, places to go and have good gameplay and stuff like that. And I think like a large part of the frustration for us is that we don't feel like our voice. There is no way of getting our voice heard until it builds up into some sort of drama that inevitably always happens in this community. But I just kind of wanted to like ask Crispy and Fuzz, like, is there any way, like, what is the best way to contact you? Like, can we do these more often? Like, can you hear our feedback? Because you've got paragraphs and paragraphs of it, and none of us have a way to communicate with you. Like, so you get. I think the tournament Discord has been like, thanks to Baron, this tournament Discord has literally been the only outlet that the comp community have had to. It's been the only link we really had to OWI. Not saying that Nordic was bad, but this is. I definitely say that Baron puts in a higher effort to get our worries and woes heard, from the other side, which is obviously the developers. So, I mean, there's been nights where all of us have joined this Discord to bring up problems, and Jenny, bless her soul, has come in and tried to explain and, hear our voices and stuff. But is there, going forward, going to be something like this that happens often? Is there going to be like a roundtable that we can do often? I mean, I think it would be a huge, like, asset to, hear our feedback and, just how we feel really about the game and things going forward and issues around that. I mean, a big example is the COC. Obviously, that's the thing in itself. That's fine. There was a big outcry about that because, again, it was kind of put in place, but nobody knew what it meant. And then from the OWI side, it went silent for us at least. And obviously, a few people here it affected their communities. That's what it is. I won't go into that. But again, because we don't hear anything from OWI and we don't have a way to contact you, it just feels like, we're kind of backseating while trying to support a game and playing a game that we all enjoy. We all want this game to get better and we want it to improve in different ways and things like that. But we only can do that if OWI want to listen to us. I mean, I know I'm going to jump in again, but like, a big thing is Crispy. I think all of us here want to hear from you more, 100%, because you are the community manager. You're the one that manages it. I understand that 100%. But I mean, even maybe if it's once a month or once every 2 months, like to hear your voice and just kind of, you know, have our feedback heard. I mean, you are the person that we want to hear it because, you are the community manager. You're the guy that makes the changes. So I think for us, that's a big thing. I'm not going to talk too much because I think maybe Connor or someone else wanted to raise a point, but that's just how I feel, and I know a lot of people feel here. But yeah, I'll shut up now.
I'm all for jumping on and hearing concerns and stuff like that. Keeping in mind, it's been a little bit of a roller coaster ride with 1.0 and now 2.0 done. But while some of you guys have been around for a long, long time, I have made controversial changes to the game in the past. Not like but we as a team have done that. Sometimes it worked out pretty well, sometimes not. So it is good to hear from you guys. Sometimes change is hard, and sometimes it takes a while for that kind of uh, change to actually like impact the gameplay. And I wouldn't say I just say it's we appreciate feedback from you guys, and we're not always designing the game uh, to be exclusively like competitive friendly, but we do want the game to be as good as possible when it comes for you guys gameplay. Um, good examples like back in the day, we had this medic change with the bandages. Extremely controversial, etc. In the end, we've kept that change, and I think overall it's been a benefit. We've had to tweak several things beyond that, but it is kind of one of those things that we want to continue evolving the gameplay, and I think we've kind of stated that before. But yeah, it's not we're going to continue doing that, uh, and hearing from you guys is great. Like I said, I'd be down for chat like this once a month, and definitely having some kind of solid area where suggestions can be placed or feedback can be placed where we see it's visible. That would be great. I'm not sure if there's a feedback. I've just joined this Discord, so I'm new to this Discord. I didn't know if there was a channel already set up for that, but yeah. Uh, Thanks, Baron, for putting this. Baron and Crispy and Jen putting this on. It's great. Hopefully I'll be able to shut up now, and you guys can just talk about the the tournament specifics. But if you need me for any specific designs,
With that being said, I did say Relics will go next, so I'll call on you, and then I'll probably go to George after about the tournament, and then work my way down the topics. So Relics, if you want to go.
Yeah, I had a thing I would like to say about the time of the match and the starting ticket values, and mainly the changes when flag gets like the ticket values for the captured flags. I think the time-wise, 1 hour is a bit too short for comp-wise. I think I would personally prefer like 19 minutes rounds and with bit more starting tickets, and not have the flag gain values be so high that it would make really hard for things start grind for half an hour and then lose one flag, and then the match is pretty much over. And the second part of the different question is when would be able to see the demos record and see demos?
Fuzz, do you want to take that one? Flag.
because he's asking about 1 hour rounds and starting tickets. I think he's referring to.
Oh, he's referring to the tournament. So just to clarify, you're talking about starting rounds and tickets for this tournament.
Yeah, for the comp games, yes.
Oh, like so that how they were different from the official layers. This maps.
What I'm trying to say that I feel when you have starting tickets, let's say 250, and when one flag gets taken, it's gonna be 70 ticket difference. I think it's too much tickets for one flag if you're starting solo tickets.
Oh, so you're asking if we can lower the ticket swing on flags.
I think his point is It's sort of like encouraging a meta like in the Spit M game where you just don't cap your second flag and wait for it to flip because it's more advantage to flip. And the rounds were quite short, like especially the Logar one. It felt very, very quick. It was over very quick, the Logar round of the tournament in some certain games. I think is what he's trying to say.
Yeah, that's it. I know in Pro mode you can change some values, and I think that's a good thing. It's a shame that if you flip between regular squad and Pro mode, some things go haywire, but yeah, that's good for you.
Yeah, I can look into that and see what we can do to make rounds less encouraging and meta like that. To be more conducive to competitive. Jake, do you want to go? Or yeah, Art. I had Art for next.
Well, Rulis mentioned demos, which was what mine was, like CS:GO demos, because that didn't get addressed. What he was asking about,
So you want to bring in like demo mode?
like a replay, but with casting tools that you can go anywhere on the map
Oh, yes.
whenever the game is over, so you can look at everything, and then it would keep. Honestly, you wouldn't even need a ref. I still think a ref would be a good idea, but you could ref it kind of after the game as well.
Mm-hmm. That's something personally I want to see in the game come into the game as well, especially with dedicated casting tools. Obviously, I'm not on the development team, but I would like to see like a way to do replays, because it would be great for tournaments as well, as you had said, to do referees to go back and watch the match after, as opposed to having to try and stuff refs in the matches when you have everybody who's in a match everybody who's like signed up to ref already playing, which is a problem this tournament and all tournaments have to run into. But I think that would also benefit teams to rewatch the thing. I personally can't make the promise, but it's something that I can discuss with the dev team to see if it's something we can slot in or something we can develop and then eventually get into the game. And
to be clear, there was a demo mode or demo recordings at some point. I think back in 2015, 2016. Can't remember when when we upgraded to some certain version of UE4. The demo mode got broken. Hasn't been fixed yet. Hopefully, we get it fixed one day. We don't have that. I don't have the ETA on that yet, but yeah, there was a demo recording mode that was supported, and at some point, a UE4 upgrade broke it. Just for full information there.
There is some new admin tools coming into play as well for the hosting side, which you guys will be able to utilize in your matches. Things like teleporting to the players is coming into play in the next patch. And we are exploring how to put into play that you can spectate to. So we are trying to get those in play for the admins anyway, which you guys can then utilize for your tournaments. Just so you know.
Okay. I have to run soon to another meeting. So I'll just, who has questions about the tournament so I can answer those before I go? And if there's anybody, if Jenny's still here to answer the rest of the questions. Art, yours was about the tournament?
Yeah, it was.
All right, yeah, go ahead, shoot it.
Yeah, so when I got into the tournament, I can't speak for everyone, but three of the things I was most looking forward to was provided caster tools, provided layers, and provided servers for the tournament. On all three of those fronts, I think at least in my games, they were all community provided. Like obviously we use ProMod, we use ProMod made layers, community made layers, and then I think every single match I played was on that UMB server as well, so it's a community server as well. I'm just wondering if going forward with other tournaments, there's plans to add in like base caster tools and base layers into the game so we can practice them on pubs and things, and we'll just purely be relying on scrims. I think service is what it is. It would be nice to have service provided, but you can only do what you can do. But I think going forward, are the plans to actually put the caster tools in? Because I'm sure from a caster's perspective, I can't really speak on their behalf. I think it'd be really beneficial for them. I think they enjoy using it, and it can be somewhat painful to watch Squad without it. Just any plans to add those things into the game and for tournaments going forward.
I know for the server stuff going forward, we're looking at getting dedicated boxes for future events, so we aren't running off community servers or renting servers from providers. For the layers, now with the layer overhaul, it's a lot quicker for us to actually create the layers and put them into the game. So hopefully those will also be in the base game. And then for casting tools, we're looking at options right now to get something either in our own official mod of Squad or our own official like branch with casting tools, and then seeing if that's possible to bring it into the full game itself. So those are all options we're looking at. Next up, Soul, you had a response. I may have skipped over you earlier.
Oh, hello. Yeah, it was just with that whole like ref talk about like being able to go through and like look at the games and like just look for penalties and stuff like that. Has there been like any talk with just getting rid of all that? Like, me personally, I think it's a little childish with like the whole like healing through walls and picking people up through walls and like moving the vehicles. Has there been any talk about just ignoring that and just not caring about it in the future?
I haven't personally thought about it, but that is something I can think about for future events. Because if that takes so much effort for the referee and it doesn't happen much in games, we can look at seeing what we can do, but still keeping in mind that these are official events and some of the stuff shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, I guess it would all depend
Yeah.
on what everyone wants to do and if they're all happy just keeping those rules. I
Mm.
just think with like the whole, I see the messages, people always looking for refs, right? I think it would be just like one less thing to do, not having to worry about a ref, and just have the caster just look at the radios, and that's it. And there you go.
Thanks for the feedback. Jake, your second part of your topic?
Yeah. So it was kind of brought up to me, trying to engage more people in the competitive side, or at least maybe advertising the tournament more to the player base, and trying to create some sense of what's the word I'm looking for? Like a attachment between maybe certain teams and viewers, possibly adding patches or logos that could be tradable on the Steam marketplace for like different competitive teams. Not saying that squad competitive is going to be anything near CS:GO, but that's one of the reasons that people really like their teams. You know, everybody wears a patch or has a sticker or a spray or something that they have their team. So be something that could be added, and then maybe even like half the benefits of the stuff that's sold on the marketplace goes to veterans or something like that.
That sounds like a great idea. I can bring it up, and Fuzz is also taking notes as well, and we can see if that's something we want to look at and take forward. Thanks for the idea. Gon's life, or Chords and then Gon's life.
Were you fully set on doing a Swiss format every tournament?
Going forward, we are going to look at redoing the format for future tournaments. So one of the things we had this season, which we didn't anticipate, was we had around 60 teams sign up. So it was a lot more than any tournament I ever get. I know that Rivals, for example, the last season was struggling with dropouts, just because teams weren't being able to field. So going forward, we're looking at possibly doing a qualifier beforehand, and then we'll run on either a single or double elimination. That's just tentative right now. The details obviously would be ironed out over the year, and I get you guys feedback on what format you guys would like instead of just forcing a Swiss on you guys. So short answer, no, we're not setting a Swiss for future events.
All right, perfect. Just because didn't want things to get like completely stale of just doing Swiss all the time.
I agree. Gon's life.
Yeah, I just wanna give some feedback and hope that doesn't happen next time. We had a lot of changes this tournament, like in everything, on maps, on what mod we're gonna use, and so on. I just hope it can be more organized next time. It just felt like the tournament wasn't so much of a organized. Yeah, someone put it up in 10 minutes and yeah, went with the flow.
Yeah, I totally hear that. There were a lot of growing pains moving into the position and building up the infrastructure in a brand new tournament. And we've taken note of all the things that have gone poorly, and we aim to put solutions in and fix those problems going forward, so that our future events will run smoothly without multiple changes, if you said. So,
Perfect. Thank you.
no problem. Jake again.
Is there any word on when the next official OWI tournament would be? Or like, is it going to be like a yearly thing, twice a year?
The official OWI tournament, this one here, OIC, would more than likely be an annual thing. So it wouldn't happen multiple times in a year just because of how long it takes, and the community itself runs a lot of tournaments, so I don't really want to take up their time. But we're planning to run more short events and more refined tournaments throughout the year. So something we were aiming to run this year, but it got pushed to next year, for example, is Track Attack. So we pushed out the game mode. We're going to work on testing out that game mode now, going forward, and seeing what changes we can put so we can make it tournament ready, and actually push that one out as well. I hope that answered the question.
What about any like smaller format tournaments on smaller maps?
Definitely something that can be considered. We do have the plan to do multiple tournaments and multiple events throughout the year for the competitive community. So smaller format tournaments is something we can look at as one of our events that we're deciding on.
Cool. Sounds good. Thank you.
No problem. Raman?
Yeah, just a small point about the tournament and the casters. I just kind of, maybe this is directed at Crispy and Baron. Like, yeah, big part of the community, like, we have like a dedicated host of casters that always cast, all the games and kind of reflects the whole community comp side of squad. But there seems to be a big neglect on kind of OWI sides adopting these people as not. I know the word partner is like there's different debates of what it means and stuff like that. But I noticed they kind of a few of them have been shunned from being OWI partners. While I know other people who like Karmika, people like that, who at Moydog, things like that, they're kind of listed as OWI official partners. But I'm definitely of the belief that some of these people put in a lot more effort in showing the game of how we play it. And I just kind of wanted to know the process of why people like Ads and Socrates and things like that are listed as partners, but some people who don't necessarily play the game a lot, and others that do, obviously Moydog and that, like how comes they have partner and how comes the people on the comp side don't?
But
Uh,
also keep in mind, as partners, well, Chris could probably expand on that, but basically partners have to maintain a minimum uh, level of, they have to abide by the community guidelines effectively. Not all people who are on YouTube do that. So that is one of the, not saying anybody in comp wouldn't, but some people go a little overboard and maybe to get clicks or something like that. So anyone we partner with has to like kind of follow those guidelines. I think it's not an issue, but yeah, just keeping that in mind.
Ramen.
Yeah. My last point I kind of want to raise, it kind of expands on what Jake said earlier, but it's kind of in relation to patches in our community. I know they were giving us Kickstarter rewards originally back in the game, but I can tell you 110% that a massive part here of like everyone here plays in their own communities. People don't move. You've got Rulis, Bumbable, Gons, whoever. Like all of us play in our own communities, and we're so settled on that. And we always play with this. Like most of us play with the same teams and things like that. I mean, chords, TLR, everything like that. Like most of the people here, you know, live and breathe their teams. That's all they play in squad. They've always got their clan tags on. A massive thing for me personally, and again, I suppose with Jake and a few other people, is it would be so good if we could have those clan patches in game, because I think it kind of, one, people are going to see that and be like, oh, what's that? And it generates a lot of excitement for squad because they don't know necessarily about the community, but then they see the patches and, they'll be like, oh, cool, what's that? And for us, it kind of, incentivizes our teams more. I mean, we all want to see the comp community grow. And I think, I know it sounds so stupid, but just having a small patch in game, like our clan logos on our arms, would be awesome. That's something that I personally really like, and I know a few people here would really like as well. Is that something that's being looked at in the future, or we could do? As I understand, I know it might be a simple process since we will have our logos on our arms. We will have our logos, sorry, pre-made. And I don't know if it's a copy and paste or make games, I don't know, but is that something in the future that could be looked at?
I can quickly speak on that. So, as part of the Kickstarter, one of the reward tiers was a clan. So you would buy, you'd spend $1,000 or whatever, $500 or whatever it was to get 5 keys, $1,000 or whatever it was to get 10 keys. That was back in 2014. Um, we're still working to fulfill that. As you might guess, a lot of people from 2014 might not be playing squad anymore, or they might not be in the same clan, etc. So we're still trying to roll that out with this patch system. So they've been sent emails to give us their logo, and we'll get it in the game for them, get their keys in the game for them. So there's a little bit of a manual process there. I can't guarantee anything regarding clans that weren't part of the Kickstarter. I will say we would definitely want a period of time where this remains exclusive for those Kickstarter backers, because without those people, we wouldn't be sitting here today talking about Squad, because they did put their money where their mouth was and shelled out a lot of dough to support the project early on. So uh, had I been around, I probably would have maybe, I don't know. It was just it's obviously it is a very unique thing that we want to make sure that those people are recognized. That being said, after a period of time, we might consider rolling this out to a larger amount of clans. The system that is made for that particular thing might not be as robust as it would be needed in order to roll it out to everybody. And so at that time, we might need to change up the way we did that system. But yes, it is. We are aware that people are very passionate about their group of players that they play with, and they would absolutely love to have these patches. And it's not like we're sitting there saying, "Nope, never gonna happen." But we're still fulfilling the promises that was made in 2014. Once those promises are fully fulfilled, then we can consider what is the future lies with the rest of the communities.
I mean, if you want to do it as a late tournament prize, none of us will mind, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think the tournament currently, I believe you guys are going to be having. There's going to be prizes for the winners, and those are just weapon skins. Um, yeah, I mean, you could consider that as a suggestion in the future. Maybe that the winner or the runner up of the tournament gets their own clan patch as part of the winnings. That might be spruce up the deal there a little bit. I don't know, something you could send to Baron as a potential suggestion for future prizes.
Pink unicorns.
Right. No, I think that was me. I was also going to do the same thing. So, does anybody have any further questions? If not, we'll call it here, and we'll look at getting another one in a month.
Are we going to keep the topics channel open? Like, can we continue giving feedback, or is it going to be closed after this?
I will reopen it after this roundtable. I'm just going to answer all the questions in there that I relating to the tournament that I can answer that haven't been answered, and then I'll open it back up.
All right. Okay.
For general feedback on, improvements of the game, is there someone that we can message or, place like the discussion? Like, because obviously with like the vehicles, collision damage, for instance, like I just messaged Jenny and said, this is a terrible idea. It's not going to work. And you guys seem to listen to it. Is there like somewhere that we can like openly discuss with someone, any of these suggestions? Who is the best person to message, or where should we leave said message?
Yeah.
Yeah, feedback channel in here. Is it we do have official feedback channels, and in quieter times, I actually go through each and every thing and do try to reply to people. Uh, right now, it is not a quiet time. There's a lot of stuff going on, like so I'm not able to necessarily take in every bit of feedback that's posted in every public channel. There is, as I'm counting here, is like 6 or 7 different discords, etc. But yeah, I recognize that you guys are quite passionate about the game, quite familiar with the at least the way the competitive meta plays, specifically around AAS game modes. So it would be great to hear your guys' feedback in a specific channel that's maybe a little more
Quiet.
yeah, quiet, or focused. So it's not just yourself giving a feedback like, oh, I want snipers for every team, why isn't this here yet? But rather like feedback, concerns, or suggestions from a whole community, like your whole community. So speaking, I know we had that in the past with the squad community feedback that Nordic had ran. Um, like I said, we got quite busy with 1.0, and then with Nordics moving on, and that is also hard to maintain a Discord with, because we have. I don't know if you guys are aware, but we have so many new communities that have sprung up in the last, 3-4 months with the advent of 1.0. So Squad is growing their communities quite rapidly, and that's awesome. We love to see that, but it's hard to maintain a community Discord when there's so many new communities. You're gonna be letting people in, or seeing communities depart and stuff like that. So yeah, so it's hard to maintain all these different Discords, but certainly you guys have shown your dedication, and I think it's only fair that you guys would have your own feedback channel. So it looks like one's going to be created for you guys here, and I'll be sure, at least if it's not myself reading it, we'll be having Crispy or Baron or Jenny to be reading it. So thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening.
I'm looking forward to watching on the. Is it the 9th?
It's the 6th.
Six, the
Six.
finals.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'll see a lot of helicopters hitting that 400-meter mark up in the sky, getting towed. That's what you'll expect to see from us.
Okay.
I want to see
Great.
you guys do what the other clan did when they jumped out of the heli to take out those vehicles.
Well, you can't. Unfortunately, you can't do that with the MEA because I don't think you can reload in time. But the US, you might be able to do it.
Yes, you can.
Remember, guys, don't watch the split screen. Watch ours as
Guys
well.
You
are-
can do it with every heavy AT.
Guys are making
Don't
us
encourage it.
have
Don't
more
encourage
work.
it. It's a bad idea.
Right.
We're gonna have to animate someone flailing their arms now, so you don't shoot their damn rockets while you're flying down to Earth. Jesus.
Yeah. Thanks
Yeah,
for
it was a bit of a
taking
mess.
the time out of your day, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. It's been
Cheers,
awesome.
everybody.
Thank you.